Hey everybody, before we get started, just a reminder this episode is brought to you by patrons like Agar Comics, Blacklist OG, Qua, Jeremy Vasquez, Kylie Denton, Dexter Flores, Rogue Robin, Shawnee P, Soda-san 042 if you're happy to give her 75. And if you like what we do and want to see us do more, you should consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it'll really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody! Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is time once again to talk about Star Wars Legion by Fantasy Flight Games. That's right, exactly on the ball called. There was a streamy do and some stuff, and then they dropped the Iden article, as entirely predicted. So yes, we're going to talk about Iden Versio and Dio, her ID 10 Seeker Droid Commander expansion today. And I'm going to warn you, I'm pretty spiced here. There is a, quite frankly, awful thread on the forums. Well, mostly awful. Sorry, I'm still spicy. Where a lot of people have, I'm not going to say wrong opinions, but they have bad opinions. Opinions are subjective. That means that I can subjectively believe that your opinions are bad. Yeah, sorry. Just a lot of the way people are treating Iden rose, and some of her upgrades and stuff rose me the wrong way. Like, there's a lot of just, like, on-screen favoritism, which doesn't make any sense. Like, there's a lot of unfavorable comparisons to Boba, because Boba costs more points, and maybe he doesn't shoot as hard, but also he's really hard to kill. And he can do some crazy stuff with that jump and that speed 3. But also I'm like, but when does Boba kill, like, entire squads of dudes, right? Like, if this was the Mandalorian Mando, then sure. But Boba mostly just, like, he's persistent. He's hella persistent. He gets his man in the end. But also mostly he just jumps around and does a lot of dirty tricks. Like, I don't know. Iden's a first-person shooter character. Well, I mean, it can't be first-person. But she's an FPS character like Kyle Katarn was, which means the only thing she does is wipe out enemy squads and not die when shot in the face repeatedly, which is kind of what her unit is good at. It's a correct feel. I've played Battlefront 2. Honestly, before we even get to her unit, let's get that out of the way. So, 1, if you have no idea who Iden is, shame on you. You apparently don't watch TV or YouTube or read the news in the year 2020. Technically, it was 2017, but you know what I mean. I'm making fun of you because you're watching a video on the internet, and you should get internet news. But she was the main protagonist of Star Wars Battlefront, and also was the protagonist of the Inferno Squad novel that came out before then. Played by the lovely Janine Avankar. I think I've said your name correctly. If you're listening, holy shit, that would blow my mind. Because she's also a really cool lady who really likes Star Wars and stuff, and is super happy that this exists. Somebody tweeted her. Actually, no, she was on the Legion subreddit because somebody pinged her. So I'm sure she'll be happy to know that she's still kind of a badass in tiny plastic form. But yeah, she's a central character in Battlefront 2. I do own that game. I bought it for $20. I think it's worth about $20. Even with all the crazy, useless stuff they keep uploading into it, it makes it such a huge file that annoys me a lot. And as soon as I get, like, Final Fantasy Remake or Persona 5 Royal or whatever, my JRPGs, I'm gonna probably delete that data. But anyway. She's the main protagonist. Yes, she defects to the rebels in the end, but after the post-Endor thing. And who knows, maybe that means there will be a rebel Iden, which you guys can enjoy. Watch them give her white safes. They really shouldn't. Though some people have been like, why? Like, you can see it in the art. She's clearly wearing a Imperial Army-style chest plate, even though that's her only armor. Though she does have, like, a TIE pilot-style jumpsuit on. But yes, she is the central character, and I'll admit, her character arc's not super good. It's super short, and it doesn't really go anywhere. Some of that may be limitations from Lucasfilm and Disney, but she is good at killing. Oh boy, here she goes killing again. And, like, in general, I think one of her character traits that is not just a video game thing that works very well for it is just, she really just doesn't give up ever. Like, you know, she won't ever stop trying to do the thing she's going to do, even if it means, like, jumping out of her crashing X-Wing onto the top of a Super Star Destroyer or whatever. Like, she has a lot of persistence, which makes sense for this. But I think she also has some limitations. That said, even though it was super disappointing to EA, Battlefront 2 did sell like 9 million copies, which I don't want to dog on Legion. There has just come out a rumor that it's outselling X-Wing right now. But I don't actually know if they printed 9 million Legion core sets. Okay? If they have, great. That's super cool. I don't think they have. If somebody knows those numbers, please tell me. I would literally love to know. But yeah, so again, this is something I complained a lot about with X-Wing about the community, was that people were like, literal who? Power creep? And X-Wing did have some power creep, but that's because they had design problems in 1.0. I don't think Iden and Cassian are not really power creep. They're just something different. So, yeah. Anyway, let's actually talk about our unit card now that I've got my kind of pre-rant out of the way. So, let's actually talk about Iden's card right now. Iden Versio, she's unique. Inferno Squad leader. She's a commander, normally, because she has covert ops. 1 mini. She is 100 points. She's a little bit more expensive than Cassian, which makes sense because you'll see that she has 3 courage, right? So, slight improvement there. That's also pretty uncommon in Imperial, so even if you just use her as a commander, she's got a certain amount of bold, leadership, which I think is good. I think the command bubble is a good... Like, you can use her as a frontline commander. We'll just get that out of the way now. You can totally, especially once we talk about her armament upgrades, you can totally make her, like, maybe pair her with Veers, because Veers is much more supportive. Iden is kind of selfish, but she can definitely give your troops the courage bubble they want and, like, really push them forward. Okay? Like, she can be good at covering that morale angle. She also has red defense, but no surge. Cassian has white with surge to block. They both have surge to hit. Pretty typical for commanders. Well, minimum having surge is typical. A lot of other commanders actually have surge crit. So she's not quite as spicy on that. We've got quick thinking, so she can give herself an aim and a dodge token, kind of like Jin. I actually think Iden has a lot in comparison with Jin, especially now that Jin has her other option for weapon. Covert ops, which you talked about, you can turn yourself into an operative. You can infiltrate. Loadout, so you can swap around her upgrades. Marksman, so you can spend a aim token to improve die results, which is primarily going to rely on quick thinking, which means she can only really get 1 unless you are pairing her with Veers, in which case, or a generic officer, because they have spotter as well, just passing her aim tokens, though that requires a little bit of synergy, again. And she actually has nimble. I kind of talked about that with Cassian. Cassian's got some stuff that kind of synergizes with aim tokens, like he's got tactical. Iden has, like, quick thinking and nimble. She has a very rebel style, though obviously backed by inherent red dice. So her upgrades are 2 trainings, a gear, and an armament slot. With loadout, that's pretty flexible. I guess you probably want to do recon intel, but that doesn't really leave you... Recon intel's only 2, isn't it? That doesn't leave you a lot of options. You might also consider giving her grapples or environment gear, because this is something I've noticed. Like, again, a lot of people are dunking on Boba pretty hard that he's, like, for 30 points more or 40 points more core. Well, let's be real. We'll talk about Dio in a second, because I haven't, like, put his keywords in here because I don't want to do the other dumb text box thing. You can see him. He's 15 points, so really Iden's 115, because there's no reason why you won't run her, because that gives her some extra shit. But still, the thing is that obviously, one I talked about, Boba has red defenses with surge and impervious, so he has pierce protection. Iden has none. Like, she has quick thinking and nimble, but I'm sure Rebel players would love to tell you how helpful that is at a lot of times, which is not very. It helps to massage difficulty, not necessarily to do hard stops. But the thing that Boba does that you're paying for is the fact that he's speed 3, jump 2. Like, you can do some crazy moves with that. Like, just Boba can literally rocket out of nowhere, drop right next to a guy, and, like, plug him with his Pierce 1, Impact 1 weapons, because he's got Arsenal 2. And maybe that's a little overcharged. Like, if they shaved 10 points off Boba for competitive play, because Arsenal units tend to be overcosted, that's not awful either. But, like, that's, like, you can, Boba Fett can jog out, grab a box, and fucking fly away, right? Iden cannot do that. And she only has 1 gear slot, and even with loadout, there's no really way to give her that kind of terrain covering potential. You could give her grapple so she can climb without needing to worry about stuff, which is pretty good. You can give her different training slots. Again, that's probably going to depend heavily on what your armament upgrades are. Because she doesn't have tactical inherently, one of those is probably going to be offensive push a lot, especially if you are using her shorter range weapon, the repeater. We'll talk about all these in detail in a second. But, if you have her sniper, Overwatch is a great one, because she also has a way to give herself standby tokens and stuff. Hunter for giving her more potential to kill. Because she wants those aim tokens, you're gonna want to give her that so she can hurt multi-wound units better. She's got pretty good suppression. You might actually consider duck and cover because, like I said, her defense is a little wibbly. Like, mostly she's just relying on the fact that she's doing the very Empire thing of just is like, my armor save will protect me, and hopefully a shield token, but you have to like finagle that with some keywords and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of different options. Like, you might take duck and cover to be able to give yourself some more defensive properties. But yeah, I think offensive, especially because her sniper isn't cumbersome, I think offensive push is always going to be one of those, because you're going to want to be recovering her anyway for other stuff. And then the other one's going to depend highly on what you want to do. So let's talk about her weapons. She also has advanced combat training, ACT, for 2 reds in melee. Not super great. You're going to want to be careful about getting into a clusterfuck with melee units, but still decent, a decent punch-up. And she has her E11 blaster rifle. It's a hero E11, so it's got 3 dice 1-3 with Pierce 1. It's basically like Veers' attack. Not super great. You're going to want to pay the extra 15 points for one of her weapons. You're just gonna, okay? I'm going to be real with you. Like, Veers is good. A lot of people use Veers. I do not hear stories, and I've never personally really used Veers to kill anybody. Iden has a couple of tricks to maybe do that better, but I don't think her E11 is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting you're going to want out of this commander or operative. Actually, heck, especially as an operative. As an operative, you're using her probably kind of like how you would use Boba, where you're trying to like massage victory conditions and try and come at the enemy with an offensive unit. But Boba is more of he's a bounty hunter, but basically he's a hitman. He's got a lot of dirty tricks, and if you can get him to the target with one of his, really good command turns with your bounty target, you can slap pretty hard and squeak away an extra victory token. Which, by the way, Iden does not have bounty, so she cannot do that. She can only score on your objectives normally. But let's talk about Dio, who is just droid is his subtitle, because she usually calls him that until she becomes good. He's got counterpart Iden. While building an army, this mini can be added only to an Iden Versio unit, which I think is a slightly different phrasing of C-3PO, which makes sense. While building this army, the mini can be added only to an Iden Versio unit, which clarifies, because a lot of people were like, but C-3PO says you must take... Yes, if you add C-3PO, you must take him, but C-3PO's rules don't take effect unless you put C-3PO in your army, It's you're not a computer program. You can choose not to put him in. But he has shielded 1 and recharge 1, so Iden gets a shield token, which you can recharge when you recover. It's that style. And it's small, so when defending, determining line of sight, cover, and range, you do not do it to Dio. So, on the one hand, this means that you cannot hide Dio behind cover and give Iden heavy cover. Conversely, this does mean that you can pop Dio out of cover, or he can be stuck out of cover because of positioning, and it's not a big problem. You can also position him anywhere to not worry about range and line of sight. So technically, if Dio is popped around a corner, he doesn't even count. They cannot see Iden, which is great. He's only got 1 wound. He does have a comms upgrade as a droid trooper. He has the electroshock attack, which adds 3 white with suppressive at range 1. That is going. That's also assuming that's not also a melee range 1 effect, which it might be. If it is, that's really going to spice up. That's going to spice up Iden's weapon, her melee attack. Otherwise, it's just a nice thing that you can do if somebody actually does get up close. Dio's only got 1 wound. Now, this does mean that Iden effectively has 7 wounds because of the shield, and you have to chew through all of those before you can get to Dio, because he has to be defeated first, but you can assign any number to Iden until then, which they can also always choose to fix that. But a lot of people, I think, are overblowing how resilient she is. It's still only 1 shield token. You have to recover to do it. There are a couple ways to recover. Veers has a command card. Spoilers, Iden has a command card for that. That's still 2 turns. You can recover for free. And that's eating into your actions, because remember, Iden really wants to take quick thinking to give herself an aim and dodge token. Or you need to dedicate support units just to Iden, who is still only 1 unit. She can still only do so much. and it's vulnerable to focus fire. If somebody, you have to be careful when you spend that dodge token. This is more advice for players of Iden. Don't just go, oh, I have a shield token. I called it a dodge token earlier, sorry. I have a shield token. I can block anything. Be careful about what you block. Save that for shots that actually matters. Because again, I'm going to talk about Iden's flexibility. A lot of people are caught up on her repeater card. It's still only range 1 to 3. If your enemy's running like 2 or 3 sniper strike teams, Nimble doesn't do shit. And those guys usually have like Pierce 1 and stuff. And again, Iden's not getting any resilience to that. No danger sense, no impervious. Save your shield tokens for one of those shots, okay? Because otherwise she can get chipped down in a couple of turns of just taking shots like that. Honestly, I think that's probably part of Iden's strategy. Part of the reason why you play Iden, especially if you play her more offensive build, like her more damage output build, is because you want to basically use her as a soft tank and basically say, hi, here's Iden. You have to shoot at her and deal with her, or... I'm bumping my mic arm, sorry. Or she will body your use. Like, she will just start killing dudes. Now, if your opponent does actually focus fire on her and you're not careful with her, she will die. Do not fall for the, I'm just going to infiltrate right up next to the enemy and shoot them turn 1. Sure, you'll do that. You'll blow away an entire core unit. That guy has at least 2 more of those. And if he's only got 2 more of those, it probably means he's packing some bullshit like Tauntauns or, Vader, Luke, Sabine. Like, you're going to get fucked up, okay? People know this from Jin and Pathfinders. Just because you're slightly more resilient with red saves doesn't mean you're perfectly defended, okay? Be careful infiltrating. Use it tactically. Don't just use it to tactically teleport next to the enemy. You're gonna fucking die, okay? You're gonna die. So be careful. But still, overall, I think that 115 is Iden's real cost. There's no way you're not finding the extra 15 points for Dio in there. Just because the shielded effect, the fact that gives her a comms so she can HQ uplink herself. She could theoretically comms relay herself, which gives her more flexibility, especially if you operativize her, because those guys have problems with orders. Or technically, because he is a droid, you can give him the internal comms antenna, which extends your range to receive orders, which can be good. Like I said this before, Iden's really weird as a commander. Like, obviously, as a commander, she has a benefit that she's got a Courage 3 bubble. Imperials are going to love that. That's going to be great for you. She has no command slots. She has... spoilers again, her command cards are almost entirely offensive in some way. They are not really good at helping other units, except for a slight Special Forces synergy, which we'll talk about that at the end, okay, kids? But as a commander, she's really shoddy. As an operative, she can be very effective, but still has vulnerabilities, like I said. So I think we've talked all there is to talk about Iden and Dio. Let's talk about her armaments, because that's a big crux of this discussion. Okay, let's talk about Iden's weapons. So I gotta say, I'm kind of hungry. I might need to take lunch in the middle of this. Anyway, Iden has 2 armament upgrades. They're separate. They're not a reconfigure. Go figure. They're both 15 points, because that's how a loadout works. So Iden's actual cost is really 130. Anyway. I think there's a case to be made that you could theoretically shenanigans her as like a cheap option and be like, I'll skip the extra Dio parts, or maybe I'll skip the weapon, but most people are probably going to run her bells and whistles, at which point she's 130, which again, to the Boba comparison, a lot of people are like, especially because of the TL50 repeater, you can see now, but we'll talk about that. A lot of people are like, she's only 10 more points, or 10 less points than Boba with these 2 things, not counting her fun bits, and like obviously that means Boba's sans his upgrades, but I'll ask you this question. Is Boba's mobility, his ability to score an extra victory point, and his defensive abilities, because keep in mind he has Surge on Reds and Impervious, do you think those are worth 10 points? To me, that kind of stuff's worth 10 points, but I admit that is a little flexible. I could be willing to say that Boba goes down 10 points, so they're the same level, default. But anyway, we'll stop that comparison now, because I think we've hit most of the major talking points on it. But anyway, Iden has her own DLT 20A rifle. It's range 1 infinite, because they talk about this. It's 2 black, high velocity Pierce 1. I gotta say, honestly, especially compared to, while she doesn't have cumbersome like Cassian does, it's still 2 black with just Pierce 1, and she's got Surge hit. Like, okay, it's probably a free chip damage. She is still only 1 woman, as opposed to as I talked about with Cassian, the ability to get 3 activations and 3 1-damage chip shots into the same space that you could fit 1 commander or operative. That said, it is a pretty good option if you see an area with a lot of sightlines, maybe some tall terrain you can get height advantage on. Sure, infiltrate Iden, drop her on a roof with this thing equipped, and Overwatch, and just have her quick thinking shoot, just like I recommended for Cassian, aim shoot, and just have her chip damage guys soften up tauntauns that are coming in, Chipperino down commanders and operatives, plink guys off objectives, that kind of stuff. High velocity Pierce 1 means very consistent damage. She's pretty decent at counter sniping because those guys don't have a lot of HP. Also, and just in general, it's a pretty decent method, but man, it really drops her offensive potential considering that's an opportunity cost. When you pick the DLT-20, you're losing out on her TL-50 repeater, which is range 1 to 3, critical 1, impact 1, red, black, white. 5 dice, red, black, and 2 whites. That's a pretty good pool since she surges to hit and it's got crit 1. So it's got enough dice that you'll maybe get a crit in there or a surge to flip a crit. It has impact 1, so it's got a little bit of armor defeating potential. Not a lot, but a little. It's a pretty good weapon. It's range 1 to 3 though, and like some people are like, "Oh my god, it's so." Listen, maybe it's just because I'm me and I'm simultaneously way more into this than some people, but like I'm glad the TL-50 is good. It's basically a freaking machine gun. It's a heavy repeating blaster, or it's a heavy blaster rifle that repeats, I should say. It's not really like an E-Web style heavy repeating blaster, but it's a repeating blaster rifle that also has a built-in concussion launcher, whether that's a concussion blaster or grenade, I'm not really sure, but like it's got an alt fire for like an AoE burst effect, which I think is better represented by one of her command cards, but still. And it's a classic Dark Forces gun that they canonized for this. In its proper role, too, because you might think, oh, Dark Forces, that means it's a Kyle Katarn. Yeah, but it's an Imperial gun. He just steals it. And it looks good. I'm glad. Like, this is Iden's, M60 machine gun, which she's going to use to Rambo dudes, which is probably what you're going to have to do, because it's only range 1 to 3. It's a normal blaster rifle range. That's not awful. That's better than, there are a lot of commanders and operatives that only have, like, range 1 to 2 stuff. Cassian has that problem with some stuff, though he does have tactical going on, so he likes to move and shoot. Iden has a problem with that, because she really wants to use that quick thinking to get aim dodge, but then she can't move and shoot. Unless you do something else with something, but we'll talk about that when we talk about her command cards. But yeah, in general, it's good, but I think there's some serious opportunity costs. Yes, she can body an entire unit of corpsmen with this, right? You give her a blob of infantry to shoot at, she can entirely possibly shoot at them. Heck, you get at range 1, Dio adds suppressive and 3 white dice to this, which will get her crit 1 effect and impact 1. Impact 1 and crit 1 means and those reds means she's got a very decent chance to damage armor, get her into a weak spot, a lot more damage. It's very effective. It's a very good, brutal, Imperial gunline style weapon. Here's the thing. Okay, you've got a great gun. Iden's still speed 2, it's range 3. She doesn't have any extra mobility options. How are you going to flank a tank? Like, is that Gav or that Saber just supposed to sit there and take it while you get into its pocket sides? Or worse, are you supposed to sneak behind an AAT with its double tapping high velocity gun? Okay. Are you just going to bum rush into range against an enemy Imperial gun line? Like if there's a shore trooper fully kitted out shores and mortar squad, Iden can kill those guys pretty good probably, but she has to get into range and not die. Like, I actually like Iden a lot because while she's very flexible, she has very distinct modes. With Repeater on, she's going to clean up some armies. Like, she's going to be dropping dudes left and right. She's going to be doing some serious damage to people, doing a lot of kickback, taking some serious pointage. But she trades a lot of her range and flexibility for that, right? Like, you are going to have to use her to make frontline attacks because she's not going to be super flexible doing it. And like I said, don't just think, oh, I'll infiltrate right into their zone and just pop out of the bushes and whack them. Okay, maybe you'll bushwhack a guy on turn 1, but then Iden's going to be stuck there with her ass hanging out, especially since we don't know when Inferno Squad is coming. Presumably they will be able to infiltrate with her, much like Cassian has a lot of synergy with Jin and Pathfinders. But other than Vader, the Imperials don't really have a lot of infiltrate action going on right now, okay? So she's gonna be stuck there with her ass hanging out. Not that it's not a great ass, but she's gonna die. She's gonna get shreked, okay? So you have to think about what you're doing. Iden is very resilient. I think she's resilient so that she can, like, rush into enemies screaming, firing her gun, and sometimes she'll win. But other times, you're gonna think to yourself, boy, I really just want to be able to shoot guys from a long way off. You're trading a lot of offensive potential. Your damage cap is 3 less, and you're losing dice quality, right? Like, those 2 you keep are black dice, not red dice. Though you do get high velocity and pierce out of it. You're getting much more consistent damage, and you're getting a lot of range. Infinite range, literally. Anywhere on the board she can see, she can shoot. But, like I said, you trade a lot of offensive cap for that. So I actually really like Iden. Much like Cassian, super flexible, really good. When you put her on the table at turn 0, you get to pick exactly how you want to set her up. But, like I said, there's going to be some tactical drawbacks, and quite frankly, I think, one, I'm annoyed by the hypocrisy. Like, there are a lot of really good guns in this game, including some that have critical and stuff, but, apparently, critical sucks if you already have surges. It doesn't do anything, and, guns are already really expensive. They're too expensive. Like, why would you pay 15 extra points for a gun just to get, like, a couple extra damage? So, yeah, like, one, there are a lot of people who have had hot takes about guns and thought that they were really bad. Even though they're kind of similar. Like, obviously, Iden does have the red dice going for her as a commander and stuff. Though, like I said, doesn't have any sharpshooter. And doesn't have any pierce on this gun, so the damage is not consistent. She has marksman and critical and impact, so she can probably punch some crits through, like, armor and cover, maybe, which obviously means they can't be dodged, but they can still be blocked. They can still be soaked, and they can still be deflected back. But against, like, normies, like, against soft targets, like core units and maybe some special forces guys, pretty decent whack. Decent effect. Anyway, yes. So that's one thing. And the second is just, like I said, I lost my train of thought a little bit there, what I was saying about the 2 points. I wanted to say, one, that I think that people are a little hypocritical about weapons, and that annoys me. But two, also just, I think a lot of people are going to make dumb mistakes. That's what I was going to say. People are going to look at those big dice, they're going to look at those keywords, and they're going to go, I'm invincible. You know, Iden's pocket 7 HP. And they're going to go, I'm invincible. And then they're going to think that they can fight, that Iden can solo a tank. Iden can probably solo a tank, but you have to solo a tank smartly. If a saber tank or an AAT is just like, okay, high velocity, high energy shells, or main cannon barrage double tap, or I'm gonna, double beam barrage you or whatever at range 4 before you can shoot me, Iden's gonna get smoked pretty quick. Like, she has 7 wounds, and she has decent saves. She's got a 50-50 shot at the red save, but still, like, if you're dumb with her, you're gonna take a lot of fire and you're gonna get smoked. I do think that good players will be good with Iden, but players who are not thinking tactically with Iden, and players who are not experienced with Iden, and lots of, quite frankly, mediocre players. No offense, I'm probably a mediocre player. I don't go to OP and stuff, so, but, like, a lot of people are going to make mistakes with Iden. They're going to see the big shiny dice, and they're going to get fucking dead. Like, that's the thing we've learned, right? We've learned that you got to be careful with infiltrate, that's not everything. And we remember that sometimes being a real powerhouse doesn't save you. Look at normal Vader. Now, obviously, he's not as slow as Iden, but he also gets free attacks. So, and actually, doesn't 2 speed 1 moves with Relentless make you faster than 1 speed 2 move? I'd have to check my math. I'd have to go and fiddle with some stuff. Anyway, like I said, I really like Iden. I like how they've handled her weapons. I like her flexibility. I think she is in a proper weight class, and she can certainly punch in that weight class, but with this stuff, all she really does is punch, and you're gonna have to be careful. It's not a magic bullet. Alright, let's talk about her command cards, because that's pretty important to this. Okay, command cards. We're gonna do that. I took a quick lunch break, so it is now a different time for me, but not for you. So as is usual with these slides, I will, you only see one slide for all the command cards at once. You can look at the full images for each individual card on FFG's site, and I have them, so I will be looking at them and reading them out to you, but we're going to compact this down so it's not really chaotic in, video terms. So, let's start with her 1-pip. We've already seen it already. It was in the spread. Pulse Scan, Iden Versio. Only. Iden gains Sharpshooter 2, an aim token. At the end of her activation, she gains a dodge token and a standby token. So, this is a 1-pip, it executes pretty fast, and in general, it massages a lot of the things I've been pointing out about Iden's weaknesses. She really wants those tokens, like she wants aim from Marksman or just to reroll dice. She wants dodges so that she can proc Nimble. She doesn't have Sharpshooter on her own. And honestly, I was thinking about this during my break. Honestly, her repeaters already range, like, unlike Cassian, who both of his non-snipe weapons are pistols, so they're range 1 to 2 anyway. Iden has 2 range 1 to 3 weapons, so really, you probably want to put Overwatch on her anyway, because if you do standby, if you do a pulse scan, for instance, you're going to want that extra range so you can actually hit guys before they get too close or can chip shot it off you. So, this is pretty good. This is going to pulse everybody. You get Sharpshooter 2 so you can ignore cover. You get an aim token so you can activate Marksman if you need to punch through dodges or armor. Or if you don't, if you're just shooting at a core unit and doesn't have any fancy pants stuff, you can just use it to reroll. And then you get a dodge and a standby. It's pretty good. I think it gives Iden a lot of the tools she needs to have a big turn. It does not, unlike a lot of 1-pips, give her an inherently big turn. Like, Cassian's 1-pip is Marksman, right? It is Marksman? Hold on, I gotta find it. Not Marksman, Crackshot. Yeah, that's his 1-pip. That's the one that gives him Gunslinger, a suppression token and gains a standby token. So, honestly, in terms of raw offensive output, Gunslinger is better than Sharpshooter. Iden is still probably only getting 2 attacks, not 4. Those attacks she does get will be good even through cover. So if you're using it with her sniper rifle, you remove all cover, you've got Pierce and High Velocity, you've already got 2 black dice with Surge, you got an aim token to reroll both those dice. You're looking at probably 2 hits, which may or may not get guarded down to 1, depending on the unit you're targeting. That can be pretty potent to clip off a weakened unit, right? Or put the hurt in on a unit that's got something important, do some suppression sniping. Or you can use it to use her big gun to be like, well, we're going to get your cover out of the way, and I'm going to really mess you up with a big attack. It still requires, I think, decent tactical placement with Iden. Like, it gives her the tools she needs, but you as the commander, as the real-life commander, the player, still need to put her in a good position where she can capitalize on it. And also, it only activates her, so you do want to be careful about that. Now, obviously, like I said, if you got Dio bolted on, you can equip Comms Relay to him, which can probably do all that stuff. So, I think it's got a lot of potential, but it's still not it's not the coolestest ever 1-pip, but it's pretty decent for her, as it gives her a decently powerful turn if you've got her in the right place, and which you should if you're going to use it. So, let's talk about Iden's 2-pip, Concussive Blast. It's another 2-pip. It also only activates Iden. When she activates, she recovers. During her activation, she gains the following weapon. So this is not, this is kind of like how Boba does stuff. This is not like, at the end of your activation, do an attack with this, but just this counts as a weapon. It's range 1 to 2, it's 5 red, it's blast, scatter, and suppressive. So this is probably the concussion shot, the grenade shot of her concussion rifle, or of her repeater rifle, even if she doesn't have it equipped. But still, it's fun. Range 1 to 2 is a little tight, but she does recover, so you can make sure to shed any suppression you need to get rid of to keep her mobile, which is pretty good considering she's Courage 3. And it also means that you can recharge her shield, which gives her some damage resistance. And then range 1 to 2, 5 red, blast, scatter, suppressive, really good. Like, again, means that it doesn't need Sharpshooter. You're going to get through cover. You're going to hit him hard. You're going to possibly scooch him out of cover, and you're going to suppress him. Honestly, I wish this was her 1-pip, because this is a big boom. Like, this is Iden's power move. This is, I'm going to delete a core unit. Or, oh, you think your buddy is safe behind cover. I'm going to crush him. Like, oh, you've got a wounded commander or operative doing something. That's good. You're going to need to place it good because of the shorter range, but it gives Iden a very effective emergency slam that big red button and be like, whoop! I'm just going to blow up these guys carrying this box. That kind of stuff. No Pierce on that, obviously, also, so, it's not great against some of the harder defensive units, but still, blast, scatter, suppressive, 5 red, surge hits. You're probably going to do 5 raw damage if you do this. Cover won't apply. It will give them 2 suppression tokens, because it's a ranged attack you're going to land. And God help you if they're at range 1.
That means Dio gets to go too, which means you're adding... The suppressive doesn't stack because it's not an X keyword, but you're adding 3 more dice to this. So a very, very nasty attack. I think it's a little slow at 2 pips, but again, it reinforces my thought that Iden is really there to just body generic dudes. Like, she's going to beat up core units who get in her way, and possibly even special forces. Heck, I don't know. With 5 and blast and scatter and all that stuff. Well, I don't know. Tauntauns usually have 2 dodges, so they'll chip off some of that. But it can be a decent punch to, like, slap a taunt unit or something, too. Or, something light like bikes. Honestly, her regular repeater attack is better for armor, because that's got an impact and critical. But still, like, this is an infantry killer. And it's real good at it. I like it. And then there's also Dio's command card, Incapacitate. Yes, Dio has his own command card. It's a 2-pip. It only activates Iden Versio, gives her issues in order. During Iden's activation, you can choose enemy at range 1 and line of sight to Dio, basically. That unit gains 3 suppression tokens, so they're probably getting suppressed. And if that unit is a core unit and has not activated this round, so even if they haven't already gone, assign it a face-down order token from the order pool or flip its order token face-down, their turn is skipped. They take 3 suppression tokens, their turn is skipped. Now, obviously, this means that if they're a core unit and you skip their turn, they can't panic, right? Like, you can't force them to panic, and you're probably going to lose one of the suppression tokens at the end of the turn, just from rules, unless you've got, like, harsh conditions or something. But you don't have harsh conditions because harsh conditions sucks, so nobody ever picks harsh conditions. It's just too awful. I really hope there's some good battlefield conditions in the new pack, because I want improvised defenses to completely replace clear conditions, because that's only a net positive. Like, there are so many complaints about terrain and, like, not having enough heavy cover and stuff to, like, utilize your army correctly. Like, rebels, that's really important, and everybody. So just take it. Just replace that as your default from clear conditions, because clear conditions does nothing. It literally does nothing. So take something that does something instead. It's a more interesting game, and it will help you. But anyway, so this lets you skip a core unit's turn. This can be pretty good. Those guys got a box. Those guys holding up transmission or something. You can completely... those guys about to come into base contact with a square that Iden is forted up on and gonna, like, contest an objective. Shut him down. Slap him 3 suppression tokens. Shut him down. Now, they have to be in range 1 and line of sight of Dio, but remember, Dio is small, so you can use Cohesion to, like, really shenanigans him out there if you need to, and really get this going. Again, much like Concussive Blast, this really doubles down on the idea that Iden is there to kill generics. She is going to hunt and kill generic guys, and she's going to do it real good. It's a decent one. Again, this is Iden's 3rd command card, and technically she's a commander first, not an operative. This is her 3rd card. I mean, like I said, technically it's Dio's card, but still. This is the 3rd one in her possible command hands that come in this pack that just activates Iden. So, obviously, you can do some, like, some shenanigans, but it's hard to coordinate and stuff with that way. Like, she doesn't have a lot of synergy, and she doesn't, like, have entourage, Inferno Squad, which kind of makes sense. She acts on her own sometimes and stuff. It's like she's their commander, but it's also just, it's not like they come attached to her. They're probably just going to synergize. Anyway, she's not very good at, like, locking up your Imperial Army in commands. You're going to do a lot of reaching into the bag. Now, a lot of builds, that probably doesn't matter. You're going to get something you want at some time when you need it, but still, just keep it in mind. And then her final command card is, where is it? Technical Strike. This is her 3-pip. Now, I said that those first 3, they don't activate a lot of units. This one does. Tactical Strike is Iden and 3 troopers. When Iden or a friendly Special Forces unit that has a face-up order token activates, it may reduce its maximum speed to 1. If it does, it gains steady and tactical 1. So remember how I said that Iden's not great at, like, compared to, like, even though Vader is slow, she can't necessarily move and shoot like he can. Now she can. And she gets to do this with other special forces. Have you ever... I mean, it's steady, so it's ranged, but it's tactical 1, so you can aim tokens. So your maximum speed becomes 1, but you can move, shoot with 2 aim tokens. And I believe that technically that's 2 range 1 moves and shoot with steady is better than, I believe that's a bigger range than moving once and shooting normally. So this works pretty good. slap this in with Death Troopers, with the upcoming Inferno Squad. Death Troopers would love this. Like it's really obviously meant to synergize with your special forces, but no, dude, you can bring the pain. And heck, it's still 3 troopers, so if you need to give core units orders and it's just Iden who gets to like they call it tactical strike, but really it's a tactical advance. It's like we're just gonna move low and slow and move and shoot. Right? Like it's pretty good. It's a pretty good option. I think it's a really good one. The main downside is that it's her 3 pip, so it's pretty telegraphed for priority. And to get its maximum effectiveness, you have to combo it with special forces units who are not cheap. But when you do, you're going to get a very punishing advance, which is what it's for. It's for making a strategic advance into enemy territory, firing all the way. Which is, like I said, this is what I said earlier. Like, you can totally just hand Iden her big machine gun and tell her to go Rambo some dudes and just rush into them. And with stuff like Concussive Blast and Tactical Strike, she'll take them out. She'll clean up, maybe. She'll win some of those fights. But then there are going to be other times when it's not going to necessarily help you. And honestly, all 4 cards are very command hand intensive. I don't necessarily, off the top of my head, like, my first thought is, I guess, Veer's Iden. Iden can flip to a, like, if you want to just use, like, gunline tactic and stuff, Iden can stay close. She can fire at the same range as a lot of people. Oh, sorry, I got a notification. It's my bad. I'm doing this at a bad time. I'm getting Chrome notifications. Anyway, you can just have her stick with your boys, be supported by, like, Veer's passing aim tokens or whatever, and shoots him. And just, face him down. Offer a courage bubble as a commander. Or, if you need to, you can flip her to operative. You can move her around a little and have her act kind of on her own. It's just like I said, as a commander, I would not want her as my only commander in the unit. Not only because then if you do covert ops, you have to pick just a rando special forces or core unit. Sorry, lost the word there. But also, she's not a great commander. Like, this is her one real commandery thing where she can get a bunch of units with her to make a cool advance, but they have to be special forces. So, all in all, Iden has good command cards, but like I said at the beginning, Iden's real thing is that she shoots people good. I think overall she's best at bodying core units, bodying generics, like, and heck, even some special forces are kind of squishy. Like, you're gonna throw her up against a squad of rebel troopers or stormtroopers. She's got enough offensive output on that 50 that she can probably do some hurt on B1s. Give her support from, like, Veers from other units. I mean, she's got a gear slot. Technically, you can give her Electro Binos if you were going to run her as a pure commander. But in general, like, stick Inferno Squad with her when they come out. Stick her with a couple Death Troopers that she can just pull along and just, slam into enemies and just wipe them out. Are there some guys on your objective? Iden says, get off my objective. The things you're going to want to be wary of. Iden is not good at melee. Dio, like I said, Dio probably helps with that. I think his Electroshock is probably also a melee weapon, ranged one. So she's got a decent damage potential and surges and suppressive and stuff. But it's still... she's not going to last long if you get in a Globat fight, okay? Like, don't get cocky and let Luke or Obi-Wan or somebody, like, cannonball into her. Or Vader, especially. Vader's a monster. Like, she's going to take some hits. She's going to take some pain. Grievous, Dooku, another bad idea. Don't let them get close. They'll eat her up. Heck, Grievous gets like 2 attacks around, doesn't he? Yeah. Well, anyway, he does some stuff. It's brutal. She's gonna eat some hits, and she's gonna go down. Because, yeah, she's got a shield token. Yeah, she's got 6 health inherently. But that's kind of her main sticking point. She doesn't do good against high pierce numbers. Arguably, the damage cap won't hurt her, but... watch out for Leia Coordinated Bombardment or Veer's Maximum Firepowering down your Iden. Like, watch for counter snipes, basically. If you see that kind of setup on the table, maybe you want to give Iden her own sniper rifle. It's not as punchy, but it does mean those units are a little bit squishier than Iden, even. So that means you'll at least be able to punch back. And watch out for long-range snipers, especially if you're playing a short-range game. Iden dies to focus fire, and because she's such an offensive powerhouse, she's going to be the subject of a lot of focus fire. But if you can get ideal positioning, or you can kind of get your opponent to not focus on her, she can make some big game-winning moves where she can clear up some objectives. Whether that's slaughtering guys before they can make it to your back end in Breakthrough, whether that's, any numberous carry the objective modes, like pushing bomb carts, or key positions, intercept, all that stuff. Honestly, what would you say? There's probably like 3 types of objectives in Legion usually. There's hold pieces of terrain, which is stuff like key positions, intercept. There's, and arguably, Moisture Vaps is the same way, because those are pieces of terrain you have to move to and interact with that you don't want your opponent touching. There's get a thing and move it to your deployment zone, like recover the supplies, like hostage rescue, upcoming. And then there's move something into the enemy's deployment zone, like I believe that's the point of Bombing Run, is to put the bomb in their deployment zone and to detonate it. And Breakthrough is to get your dudes in their deployment zone. Iden can be good at all of those, or at least she can be good at hitting guys who are about to score objectives. So that's pretty useful. But like I said, she's flexible, but you're going to be looking at a lot of distinct builds, and actually, pay attention. Pay attention to the terrain, the enemy's army, what you're doing when you set up, because just because it's not as offensively damaging doesn't mean there's not going to be some times where Iden's going to do more work better as a sniper, like on a rooftop, pot-shotting guys, than she is if you just give her big gun and let her bum rush into the enemy. Anyway, those are command cards. And that's really, overall, Iden. I like her a lot. I think they did her pretty good. They represented what she does on screen, as it were, pretty well. She's an FPS protagonist. But, like I said, she only does offense, and only does it usually in a very selfish, specific way that will not necessarily defeat specialist units. But still interesting. All right, let's talk about some other stuff. All right, and that about wraps it up for Iden. I'm looking at the tentative time already. I'm thinking, damn, I really shouldn't have talked for that extra 5 minutes at the intro. Or in lots of other places, maybe. This is a long episode. Sorry about that. But there's a lot to discuss here. There's both a lot of interesting things to pick apart with Iden, but also there's a conversation going on around her, which I just can't not stick my dick in, as it were. But, hey, guess what? I have to talk even more, because there's ancillary news. 2 things. So, 1, these images you are seeing before you right now were leaked. They are apparently at the higher price point of Phase 2s and B2s. That said, Clan Ren and Inferno Squad, it's entirely possible these may be something you're intended to only field one of. We don't know yet. We'll have to see how generic they are. I'm expecting at minimum, even if they aren't unique or something, or they're not unique, or if they're not Detachment Iden or Detachment Sabine, which means they're functionally unique, because remember the detachment rules is you can only pair 1-to-1. If you do a detachment once, you can only ever, you can't stack 2 mortars on 1 short trooper unit. You have to detach 1 from each, so you have to go 3 and 3 if you're doing that setup, or 2 and 2. So they may be a soft unique like that, so we don't know about how that, but I'm reasonably sure there will be at least 2 unique models in there, which will be for Clan Ren, that'll be Sabine's mom and brother, Tristan and Ursa. And for Inferno Squad, that'll be Hask and Delmico. Expect Del to be a sniper, and maybe Hask will have his own pocket version of the repeater. Or, I don't know, maybe Hask's power will just to be an asshole. No idea what they're going to do with Mandalorians, other than the fact that I am calling it now. And, if this isn't true, you should be upset and should literally riot until they fix it, until they errata it. Mandos will be red defense with Impervious, possibly with Surge. BX Commando droids got red dice and Impervious. These are Mandalorians, okay? They're going to do it. And just watch. You're only going to be able to take 1, and those Rebel players will just go, On the one hand, they're going to be like, well, these are going to be in every army now, but I can only take 1. Just because, like I said, I've noticed Rebel players don't want to, okay. There's been some talk about this too. I'll extend the episode even longer. A lot of Rebel players I've seen don't want to play their army, basically. They want to play Empire, but they want to be the good guys, basically. In which case, you should switch to clones. Honestly, if that's your thing, they're more similar, with clones having a lot of the Republic has a lot of the synergy action that Rebels do and stuff, and the heroes.
And I get that there's a lot of inherent flexibility, and at times there's a lot of, especially with early units, like a lot of early commanders were geared to Pierce and Sharpshooter. Oh, these guys are heroes. They should be highly, super accurate. They can punch through cover. They can punch through defenses. And Rebels' soft defense and reliance on cover and mobility. And the fact that, they've got unlimited dodge tokens with Nimble. A lot of their units do, especially core Rebel troopers. But that's still only one dodge token per attack. Like, that's only one hit you can soak. You need to stack lots of those on, right? You need to stack on effects like heavy cover and dodges and etc. While they still have really good offense, they also don't have a good way to stack that out like Empire does and like clones do with different tactics and stuff. So I know that on the one hand, I get that it's frustrating. On the other hand, I'm also seeing there's a lot of transition to like Rebel players are just like not playing their full core units. Like they get enough activations cheap with like strike teams and their minimum core units who are naked, and then they focus on big hero units or specialists like Tawns and other stuff. And honestly, like I can't remember which host said it, but on Notorious Scoundrels this week, one of them said that if Rebels are the faction that does that, where you focus less on your generic bodies and more on high quality specialty heroes, Rebels is probably the faction for that. But yes, it's just these guys are going to be red defense dice, probably Imperious, almost assuredly Impervious, probably Surge on defense. And we're just going to see how much Rebel players are going to pay that extra $10 to eat them up. Anyway, they're also going to have Jump, almost assuredly, because they have jetpacks on the thing. Like ARC Troopers. They'll either have it inherently or be able to buy them. So, we'll have to see what all their stats and stuff do. FFG is saying that because of coronavirus, Adepticon may be canceled. There's been a lot of delays. The AAT is delayed, for instance, and it's actually delayed. It's not just like put out late or got really caught up in production. It's actually like, oh shit, it's not coming out when it's supposed to come out. Like, it's been pushed back that way. They're saying that supplies, Iden, Cassian, and AAT should still all be on track for April, but there's kind of sort of a global pandemic, which you should really be way more concerned about than if you get your fucking plastic tanks. Okay? Just throwing it out there. I'm not super concerned about coronavirus, but on a scale of global things you should give a shit about, that is actually higher than Star Wars Legion. I'm sorry to say it. I know I'm making a Star Wars Legion YouTube video, but it's true. There's a lot of world kerfuffle going on, and there are people who are like, but my tanks! And yes, I'm not shy. I will continue to use my 1ES internet voice for people who complain too much on the FFG forums, because that's what you sound like to me. Like, if you don't want me to do that, get better verbiage at least. Like, type less whiny. So, they've also said that because Adepticon may be canceled, they're still going to do their panel announcement. In some form, it might just be they do a live at the studio or something. Like, they're going to do their panel equivalent there. So I'm going to guess these guys are going to get their formal announcement there. And maybe we'll get Republic AT, RT, and Stap Writers announcements too. But for now, we just have leaked images. If you wanted me to guess what Inferno Squad does, I'm pretty sure they Infiltrate is going to be their thing. And hopefully they have special E11 so they get like 2 white dice like BX Commandos. Will they also be impervious? I don't know. I hope not. Because one, Iden's not impervious. And also, even if they have body armor, they are still wearing TIE Pilot jumpsuits. That's a little much. The other big quote-unquote leak news is Fantasy Flight had Gamma recently, which is it's the Game Something Makers Association, I think. But it's a trade show. It's not a like public convention. It's a trade event, which is probably why it wasn't canceled. But they had a like behind closed doors panels. There were some images from. I'm not posting it because, well, that's not as interesting as these 2 boxes. But there were several things that came out of that, like what they're doing with RPGs now. That Clone Wars Armada is actually still coming out. It's on task for Q4 2020. So, like, people talking shit about Legion delays, man, let's not start that fight, okay? Armada will beat us. But also, one of them was basically a soft announcement. Mandalorian plus Legion is coming. If you've seen that image with, like, a Q1 2020, in the panel, they said that was an error. That was a leftover graphic from a previous slide. That's not accurate. They're just saying that it's happening. What form that'll take, we don't know yet, but they're just saying that they're doing it. And honestly, like I said, with the way how long it took them to get, like, Clone Wars arrived to Legion much sooner, but how long it took them to get, like, Clone Wars to Armada, this could be, like, something in this could be like Q4 2020, or this could be like Q1 2025. Okay, I don't know. Just keeping you up with the news though. Keep your eyes peeled. Thanks so much for tuning into this video. I'm sorry it's so long, but like I said, Iden caused a lot of discussion, and I was pre-fired up about it because I like to look at what the community thinks about it, and usually completely disregard it. I know it's probably not wise of me, but whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of news to talk about too. So, everybody, if you like this video, be sure to give it a like. If you have any comments, what do you think about Iden? Like, do you disagree with me? Do you think that she's power creep or broken or whatever? Or do you agree with me that, like, her offense is good, but that's kind of her only trick? You know, what are your thoughts? How will you use Iden? Which configurations will you prefer? What upgrades are you going to stick on her? Let me know in the comments below. You can also join our Discord. That link is in the description and on our channel page as always. And of course, if you're new here, please subscribe for future Legion content and also other Fantasy Flight stuff. Or now technically Edge Entertainment stuff. Ooh. And also look forward to our regular podcasts like Let's Talk FGO, our flagship podcast, which is about mobile games, and What's Up, where we talk about lots of stuff, movies, TV, anime, video games, tabletop games. Also look to our current actual play series. We're doing a Fantasy Flight Star Wars RPG right now, Clone Wars. So check that out. We've got 6 episodes up, plus the episode 0 character creation stuff. And you can get all of that if you subscribe to follow all our content. Also, consider hitting that bell for notifications so you always know when we post a new video. And when we stream, it's really helpful. And of course, like it says at the front of the episode, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early, you can get lots of other goodies, and it really helps us out. And it supports us. And I can put my hand over my heart and say, I do not spend Patreon money on miniatures, okay? That's not what that's for. But yeah, that's the episode. Thanks for tuning in. And kids, remember to wash your hands. It's very important. If you don't wash your hands, Iden Versio will find you, and she will hurt you.